Joining us now to talk last night's election, Max Bever, Director of Public Relations and Information from the Chicago Board of Elections. Max, what a night, huh?
Good morning. It sure was.
So, Mayor-elect Brandon Johnson won 51 to 49 percentage-wise. That's a separation of 16,000 votes, something like that. There are currently 90+ thousand outstanding vote-by-mail votes. They're still out there. And it's likely, at least if you go from past history, knowing from you, maybe get half of those back. So 45,000 votes might still likely take place. The spread is only 16,000. Is there not a chance this thing could flip?
Well, you know, I wouldn't be able to speak for the AP or the ballots campaign, but I think it's clear that both those organizations didn't think that the math was going to work out in their favor. But what you just mentioned is correct. We went into election night with just over 91,000 vote-by-mail ballots outstanding, but we don't expect to receive all of those back by the April 18th deadline. Per the election code, we have 2 weeks after election day to count all properly postmarked vote-by-mail ballots that are just arriving a bit late. Like you said, you know, we don't expect all of those to come back. Looking at the February 28th election, we had 100,000 outstanding vote-by-mail ballots, and over that 2-week period, we had just over 52,000 of those returned back. So I think we're looking at a pretty similar return rate of 52%, putting it at about 45,000 additional vote-by-mail ballots over the next 2 weeks. And now at this point, it doesn't look like it's going to affect the mayoral race, but it is going to likely affect some of the alderperson races, especially the ones that are close. So I know that those campaigns now have their eyes on the vote-by-mail ballots coming back over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, so of course, the Vallis and Johnson campaign obviously probably have number wonks greater than us, so they've both squeezed in numbers, and obviously Mr. Vallis conceded. Brandon Johnson has accepted victory. The night started out, looked like it was going to be Mr. Vallis. He started out with an early lead, not a sizable lead, but it wasn't ever expected to be a sizable lead. Then it shrunk, then it shrunk, then it shrunk, then Johnson pulled ahead. Was there any pattern early, Max, that you saw that portended a Johnson victory?
The pattern that we saw heading into election night was that it seemed to be that we were hitting repeat on a lot of the voter turnout that we saw just for February 28th. That we saw a strong early vote turnout. We saw a strong vote-by-mail ballots being returned early with a slightly slow and sleepy election day. Now, we didn't have the highest election day turnout yesterday, but it was an improvement over February 28th, where the difference between the two elections started to shake out more around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, when we saw some of those age group numbers start coming back, is that voters under 54 showed up slightly more than they did for February 28th, and voters 55 and up showed up slightly less than they did for February 28th. And in a low turnout election, that can make all the difference. The differences between some of these age groups were only between 8,000 or 10,000, or for 18 to 24-year-olds that saw a 5,000 bump in voting, at least so far. Again, that can make all the difference for a low turnout election.
Yeah, you mentioned aldermanic races, too. We were talking with the chief communicator for the Chicago Board of Elections. We appreciate your time, of course, this morning. I'm sure you slept about 0 last night.
Because got about 3 in, so that's pretty good for this week.
So it was exciting, too. What are some of the aldermanic races you're going to keep a keen eye on? And in those aldermanic races, some that will have low total numbers, is there any automatic recount triggers?
No, there won't be any automatic recounts. There won't be recounts until all votes are counted. And again, we've got till April 18th for the vote-by-mail ballots and the provisional ballots. The Board of Elections, we don't call any races until all those votes are counted and then again double-checked. So that likely won't happen until April 20th or after. But as of last night, there were some aldermanic races that were still pretty close, and I know that did not concede. Specifically in the 29th Ward and the 30th Ward. So I have a feeling those campaigns will be taking a close look at those vote-by-mail ballots as they come in day after day for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, 29th and 30th, that's what we're looking at too. You can check out all the numbers at cbschicago.com. Another question for you, voter turnout 35% yesterday, less than what you'd see on a big election day, a Tuesday in November. Last time, Tuesday in November, about 46% turned out, but that's tens of thousands of votes. Is there any thought anywhere, I know you don't control this, to aligning the mayor's race with national races, or with that first Tuesday in November, just to get more voices heard?
I think that's a good question for Illinois legislators. You know, they do set the election calendar. These February and April elections have been in place for quite a long time for the municipal elections, so it would be a change. But, you know, municipal elections, not just in Chicago, but elsewhere through Illinois, are some of the lowest turnout elections that we see. So I do think that we do have to think about ways of not just engaging voters for the municipal election, but to get it more consistent overall. For presidential elections, we see people turning out at 70%, even 80%. Like you mentioned, the midterm elections, 46% was a low turnout for the midterm election. It is kind of a little bit sad that we're looking at about 35% tonight for today, and then the vote by mail ballots coming in, that might bump it up another 2 to 8%, but still probably going to be under a 40% citywide turnout. It's a little bit sad that we consider that a good turnout comparatively over the last few decades.
Yeah. Duly noted. You guys have done yeoman's work with vote by mail, really expeditious work over just the past few election cycles with getting people and the ease of voting by mail. As I was watching votes come in last night, refreshing Twitter click at a time, there were elections elsewhere, Wisconsin, so on, and results came in fairly fast in Chicago, faster than other places, and you won the admiration from many on social media, some of them of course just looking to troll their own place where maybe it isn't going so well. But what is Chicago doing to keep that speed up? How have you gotten to that level where you are admired in some places?
Oh, we appreciate the kind words. We had very hardworking staff all throughout that have been up for 24 hours, 48 hours. At this point, we really rely on our team to do that work in a quick and expeditious manner. But I think it's also a double-edged sword. Lower turnout on election day means that those votes are counted quicker, those precincts are coming back quicker. But I also want to point out that early voting and vote by mail, those coming in quicker, a lot more people using those, means that those votes are already counted heading into election night. So when those votes are ready to be tabulated, those secret ballots results are ready to be shared, they can be pretty quickly into the evening, right around 7:15. So what we saw last night, once a precinct does get 100% reported, those early votes and all the vote by mail ballots that we received from April 3rd automatically get added into those precincts. So all of those were ready to report as soon as those precincts were done. So our hardworking election judges and everybody else that got those precincts closed up and those results transmitted and reported, thank you again. You did it at a very speedy rate.
Yeah, you guys get dogged sometimes, so you certainly deserve kudos when it is deserved, and it is deserved here. Remarkable night and a remarkable job by the Chicago Board of Elections. We thank Mac Bever for joining us, Public Information Officer with the Board of Elections. Few hours sleep, you've got the weekend to catch up though, so thank you, Max.
Thank you.